So, sorry, so Sam, great presentation. Go for it. Go for it.
So this is, should I start again? Should I with saying the intro?
You carry on.
Alright. So, first of all, I'd like to speak about the dream pop aspect, because like shoegaze, the second genre I'm going to speak about, kind of like came from that. So dream pop was like, it's like in the 80s, so like you got post-punk and all that, which is like darker, and you got like new wave and stuff like Blondie and I don't know who else was sort of in that, but there's like dream pop as well. It all kind of gets the same kind of thing, like all grouped together, like really similar. But with dream pop, it's like really like quiet vocals and like quite ethereal. So like loads of reverbs coming off the vocals, and like the guitars are using like flangers and choruses, because like you got sort of the advent of like multi-rap units like this, so like people were taking them on stage, like put them in like live environments and stuff, so like they could sort of get the sounds they wanted live. And the Cocktail Twins are probably like the biggest bands like in that genre probably. They had this singer called Liz Fraser, like she's done some stuff with like Massive Attack and all that, and she used to do like all this sort of like she didn't even sing in like a proper language. It was like just making up like syllables and stuff just to like putting the guitars forward, and that sort of like the vocals and the subject matters didn't really matter so much. So it's more about just pure sound rather than like vocals. So yeah, like 4AD or like the record label that kind of like had like most of those bands like on that label. So then we go into shoegaze, which is like kind of like so like late 80s, early 90s. Shoegaze emerged from that dream pop stuff with the Cure and the Cocktail Twins and stuff, but there was also like influence from like America with like Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr., so like noise rock aspect. So shoegaze is like noise rock and like dream pop together, so you get like the soft vocals and stuff, and then the guitars are like really like massive, like wall of sound, so like Phil Spector wall of sound stuff, and like so they were like really pushed forward, and like loads of fuzz and reverb pushed together. So like the big muff pedal and stuff is like really sort of big pedal that used to use, and tremolo pans and stuff, like where it's like a stereo effect, and that you get out of amplifiers, and the noise gates, which we were talking about earlier, they like sort of use that on like the guitars. And what else did I say? So it's like something that's really chilled, beautiful, lulling, really introspective. So like dream pop, where the vocals don't really matter and stuff, but now the guitars are like really, they're much louder, and it's kind of grungy as well. Like so, like shoegaze kind of like split off, and that like some of it like formed Britpop, like some of it was influential on that, some of it was influential on grunge. It's just like certain bands are like doing different things. This is me just with my guitars at home, just demonstration of sort of the guitars that like most in the genre are using. So like the Fender Jazzmaster down there, and Fender Jag. I've got a Rickenbacker 330, and the Jazz and Jaguar is probably used a lot because it's like got a really good like fuzzy tone to it, and it's like loads of pickup selections on it, so you get a good array of EQs, like good, so like treble to bass and all that stuff, like more than like a Stratocaster would, and then I think it's more to do with like offset guitars, and more sort of is about reflecting the experimentation of the music as well. So we've got more gear, and that's my amplifier, Roland's Jazz Chorus, which is really good for reverb and stuff. It's got like some stereo effect on it, and that all built in. And then you got like the rack effect units, like my Quadriverb. I've got a Yamaha one as well down there. So you can like put this in like live environments, and then like the advantage over like pedals, I guess, is that it's kind of presets in there, so it's kind of like everything's sort of jammed together already. And then you've got samplers and that were a big thing used as well. Like a band called My Bloody Valentine. Like they started off really punky and everything, just straight up punk and that, and then they moved on and got more experimental by using like hip hop inspired samples. Like I think they're inspired by Public Enemy a bit, like for doing that, and they were using like sequencers as well, like for drums and stuff. That fashion, well, there isn't really like a particular one, but I guess like what I'm wearing now is like considered the fashion. So like stripy and baggy stuff, and like the curtains hairstyle and like bowl cuts and that. But it's not really like a necessity, is it? It's just like it don't matter what you look like, does it? So this is an example of the Cocteau twins, which I was speaking about earlier. So like I want you to notice the like the flange guitars and like how everything sounds like really like otherworldly. Next example is this is My Bloody Valentine, and they were like considered the ones who started the shoegaze aspect. So now it's like much louder guitars, and it's like a wall of sound with fuzzes and distortions. And like Kevin Shields, the guitarist, came up with this technique where he would like do this warping method with the whammy bar, and like kind of like put everything in and out of tune and that, like as he was strumming. Got the live experience, and I think there's a band called Ride who were I think they were one of the best bands live, and they reformed recently, so like, I managed to catch them live a few times, like touring their new albums and that, and yeah, like look out for the glide guitar techniques being used again here, but there's more sort of psychedelic elements with the phasers and choruses being used. And there's like a big wah pedal as well, sort of making the frequencies that go out of control. As you can see, they got the rack effects units on top of their amplifiers. close to the end of it now. Oh, I've got some of my examples on it. You might want to block your ears.
Make sure
it's quite shit. That's enough of that. And then I got the sort of like the ambient side where I'm doing like delays and everything. I just want to speak about the record labels. So you've got the two major ones for Shoegaze and Dream Pop are Creation Records, who was fronted by Alan McGee, who ended up finding Oasis, and that's pretty much where the story ends for Shoegaze. But I'll come to that later in another slide. And you've got 4AD, which had all like the goth bands and stuff, and so it was those two combined with like, so you had like the noisy rock and roll of Creation Records, because Alan McGee wanted like punk and psychedelia like mixed, and then 4AD like had sort of the softer dream pop band. So when you combine those, that's what really like made shoegaze what it is. And then we got like producers, because it's like so many. Because there's so much like studio work, I think it's like worth looking at the producers and mixers to get those like huge sounds on the records. And Alan Moulder's really worth talking about, because he started working with like the Jesus and Mary chain, and he went on to Ride Records and Swerve Driver, who were like kind of more like grungy, like more Sonic Youth. They were like heavy on the Sonic Youth kind of influence. And then you got Curve, which were like industrial, more sort of industrial side of things, and then like massive like drum, what do you call it? Drum loops and all that kind of thing, and like sequences. And then obviously like Loveless, my Bloody Valentine, like described as the like quintessential like shoegaze record, because it's like so much going on for its time. Okay. And then we've got another good mixer is Robin Guthrie, who's the guitarist of the Cocteau Twins, who I mentioned earlier. And then he went on to like record other bands as well as his own bands. So you've got like Lush and Chapter House are like major bands in the scene as well, and then that's his own works there. And then that's a more modern one, the Resplendor album. So he's still doing work to this day. Like I think he's putting out a new Resplendor album like this year. Does that help working with him on that? And then so yeah. This is like the end of it before its resurgence in the 2010s, which is when I got into it. So yeah, Manchester and grunge were always more popular, so that's why it kind of like went under the radar. So like Nirvana came along and like got all the attention, and then you got Happy Mondays and Stone Roses with the Manchester thing. And so it can never really like see the light of day that much. Remained quite underground, and then like the music press are really hostile, because didn't have any like bombastic characters like a Liam Gallagher or like a Jarvis Cocker to talk about, because it was all more about sound rather than personality. So the press didn't like it, didn't really get a buzz off it, they couldn't really talk about much. And then like Smashing Pumpkins, Blur, The Verve, Radiohead, Deftones, Wolf Alice, Tame Impala probably all took influence, like they incorporate elements of the genre. And then you got like a whole host of like 21st century bands and stuff, like Aerial, Ring of Death Star, like still carrying the torch. And then I think like boutique effect pedals, so like the advancement in all the range of effects you got these days, like keeps the genre really relevant. It's always at the front of like technological advancement. and then you got like and then like modern labels at the bottom there. And that's it.
Awesome.
All right.
Anybody got any questions for Sam? Anybody got questions at all?
What the hell is it? Probably people are thinking.
We're killing joke on 4AD.
I'm not sure. I know Bauhaus were on it
Yeah.
to begin with. Yeah.
Okay, so some feedback for Sam's presentation. What did people think was very good? What did people think was good about the presentation?
Well, it's very informative.
Yeah, it was. I learned a bit of information.
Cheers.
About performance was really, really good. You can clearly see as well that you know like a lot about it as well, because you didn't really read anything in the slides. It was all off the top of the head.
Yeah,
It's all your common information, which is really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Anything else? Anybody thought was really good?
What it really demonstrated Sam's passion for
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. It was just all off the dome, wasn't it? Off the top of his head. Like, it was just really
So
good.
especially considering that most of it was like before my time, but
Yeah.
like I said, there's a big resurgence in the 2010s. So
No, it's really, really
I've
good.
seen a lot of live shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Like up in Bristol and stuff.
Awesome. No, it was really informative. I found out some information I didn't know about it, and I've listened to Shoegaze for a while, so that was really, really informative.
I like the use of props and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, the fact that you brought in here as well.
You could have used the props a bit more. But
Yeah, I'd probably say
yeah.
I'd probably say if there was some feedback, some kind of constructive criticism for like improving it, maybe incorporate the use of the actual hardware stuff a bit more. Because
Yeah.
I think everyone was kind of getting excited. It was like, oh, what's all this coming out of that? And then like kind of
stamp done. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
No,
so
sorry
maybe
about that.
no, they don't apologise.
Alright.
It's nothing that was it was nothing that talk away from it, but it would improve it, I think, and benefit it more if you were to incorporate them a bit more. Yeah. Any other kind of feedback that anybody would like to give that it could be improved?
I enjoyed the part about the different bands and what sort of record labels they were signed to and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, learning what different labels sort of looked for. Like when you said that, was it the
Creation and full
Yeah,
AD.
Yeah.
bringing in producers as well, naming producers.
Yeah, you went full circle with the whole. You didn't just talk about a guitar and the pedals. You talked about producers, the artists, the record labels, the mixing engineers. Do you know what I mean? You talked about the whole package that it
Live
takes.
package,
Yeah, so that was really, really good. I'd probably say, I mean, I would say overall, Sam, it's really good. If I had one piece of feedback, just as a lecturer, I'd probably say, and I know why it's happened, it would be just nerves. Because obviously, it's the first time we've probably sat in front of this group, stood in front of this group to talk to this group. At the beginning of the presentation, you were like stood like this, talking like this to the group, and obviously it's not always a good idea to have your back to the group when you're trying to talk to a group of people. But apart from that, I thought you did really well, Sam.
Cheers.
Really, really well done. Well